Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be discussing and presenting two questions, which is 5.1 and 5.2. So let's look at the first question. Why is managing change an integral part of every manager's job? It is because the business environment is not stable or predictable. Change is a constant reality. As it says, if it weren't for change, managing will be relatively easy. But that's not the case. The environment is full of uncertainty and the need for adaptation. Organizations face both external forces and internal forces. External forces such as new competition, government regulation, technology advance, and economic factors, while internal forces such as a redefined strategy, employees' attitude, and new equipment that is a necessity for a change. Change involves alteration to an organization's structure, technology, and people. Managers must deal with implementing these changes to maintain effectiveness and survival. Changes such as restructuring, changing behavior, employees' behavior, and computerizing work process. Alright, moving on to the second question, which is 5.2. Contrast the calm waters metaphors and the water rapid metaphors of change. So, what is these two metaphors and what makes them different from one another? So let's look at the first point, which is the view of organization. For calm waters metaphors, organization is seen as a large shape, or imagine it as a large shape on a predictable, smooth sea. You know what's coming next, you know what the challenges are, so it becomes stable and familiar. While for the whitewater rapids metaphors, imagine the organization as a small raft navigating raging unfamiliar river. So it becomes unstable and unfamiliar. Second point is the view of change. Calm waters seen change as a temporary occasional storm, a finite event interrupting the equilibrium. There's just a brief challenge interrupting the equilibrium. While for the whitewater rapids metaphors, change is seen as the status quo. It is a continuous process of constant uninterrupted shift. So for the third point is stability. Calm waters assume long periods of organizational equilibrium, which is the status quo, then broken by a temporary change, and then a return to the equilibrium. Like I said, just a brief, occasional, temporary storm. While for the whitewater rapids metaphors, it's different. Assume a world dominated by rapid, unpredictable change departing from the concept of equilibrium, which we see normally as the world now. So for the fourth point is prevailing management approach. For the calm waters, it is best managed by a structured sequential process because, like I said, it's just an occasional storm. It happens from now and then. So it uses a model called Coach Lewin's 3-step models, which is first to unfreeze, and then to change, and then to refreeze. So while for the whitewater rapids metaphors, it's different. It requires a quick and continuous adaptation. Managing change is not a finite event, such as calm waters metaphors, but it is an ongoing process. Ongoing, and then it's just an uninterrupted shift to a new equilibrium, which is the status quo. So that is the description for the two metaphors, which is the whitewater rapids metaphors and the calm waters metaphors. So now, which metaphors would I use to describe my current life and why? Personally, I would use the whitewater rapids metaphors to describe my current life. I'm a student taking challenging courses, I'm also working a part-time job, and I'm actively involved in organizing events and joining meetings for university clubs. So each week brings me a new deadlines, unexpected assignment changes, and fluctuating work schedule. I have to constantly be agile, prioritizing on the fly, and be prepared for unpredictable changes. So the idea of long periods of stability simply does not reflect the pace and demands of this stage of my life. So that is the reason why I choose the whitewater rapids metaphors to describe my current life.
Hello everyone, now I'm going to discuss question 5.3 and 5.4. Let's start with question 5.3. Describe Lewin's 3-step change process. How is it different from the change process needed in the whitewater rapid metaphor of change? Lewin's 3-step change process, also labeled as the calm water metaphor, is a three-step description of the change process. According to Lewin, successful change required first, unfreezing the status quo, second, changing to a new state, and third, freezing the new change to make it permanent. The status quo can be considered an equilibrium state. Unfreezing is necessary to move from this equilibrium. Once the situation has been unfrozen, the change itself can be implemented. However, this introducing change doesn't mean it's going to take hold. The new situation needs to be frozen so that it can be sustained over time. Lewin's three-step process treats change as a break in the organization's equilibrium state. The status quo has been disturbed, and change is necessary to establish a new equilibrium state. In contrast, the whitewater rapids metaphor argues that the equilibrium state Lewin described doesn't really exist for most modern organizations. It views change as a constant, chaotic, and natural state of events. It suggests that organizations are always in a state of flux, and managers must constantly adapt and react to the changing environment. In this metaphor, there is no stable state to return to, and the organization is always in a state of change. It is often associated with the continuous change model, which suggests that change is a continuous, iterative process rather than a series of discrete events. So, in conclusion, Lewin's model is a tool for managing a specific planned change in a stable environment, while the whitewater rapids metaphor is for surviving a continuous change in a chaotic and unpredictable environment. Moving on to question 5.4. How are opportunities, constraints, and demands related to stress? Give an example of each. First of all, what is stress? Stress is a dynamic condition that exists when an individual is confronted with an opportunity, constraint, or demand related to what they desire, and for which the outcome is both uncertain and important. First, let's look at demands. A demand represents the loss of something desired. In a practical sense, these are the tasks, responsibilities, and workloads that must be met. The stress arises from the risk of failure and the potential loss that comes with it. For example, an employee facing a heavy workload with a short deadline experiences stress because of the uncertain outcome and the important consequences of not meeting the demand. Second, we have constraints. Constraints are obstacles that prevents an individual from doing what they desire. They are the barriers that block employees' paths from achieving their goals, creating frustration and pressure. An example of this is a manager who micromanages every decision. This constraint prevents an employee from working autonomously, generating stress because of the employee's ability to perform is hindered by an external force. Third and lastly, there are opportunities. An opportunity is the possibility of something new to gain. While positive, it still creates stress because it introduces uncertainty and the pressure to succeed. An example is an employee being offered a major promotion that requires relocating to a new city. This opportunity creates stress due to the uncertainty of performance in a new role and the significant changes involved.
So, moving on to question 5, science and organization has exceeded its capacity to absorb change. Firstly, you see employees start feeling exhausted and burned out. You also see more absenteeism, high turnover, low morale, and frustration during daily work. Secondly, resistance increases. Staff may push back against new changes, mistakes become more common, productivity drops, and miscommunication problems or misinformation problems start to appear. Thirdly, leadership becomes strained. Managers look tired or indecisive, innovation slows down, feedback gets ignored, and projects stall because the system is overloaded. Overall, when these signs appear, it shows the organization cannot keep up with the pace of change and risks long-term damage.
Hi, I'm Khalida. So now I'll be presenting to you case application 1, which is Volkswagen emission scandal. So there are 10 key summary points for me to present. Number 1 is background of Volkswagen. Volkswagen was founded in 1937 from Germany, which is one of the world's biggest car company. It was well known for its engineering and had over 500,000 employees before the scandal. Number 2 is the 2015 scandal. In 2015, Volkswagen was caught cheating emissions tests by installing defeat devices in their diesel cars. These devices made the cars look clean clean during tests but actually produced much more pollution on the road. Number 3 is how it was discovered. Researchers from West Virginia University noticed that Volkswagen cars had much higher real-world emissions compared to lab results. Number 4 is how the device worked. The software could tell when the car was being tested and switched to a clean mode. But during normal driving, it turned off the clean mode and released high levels of nitrogen oxide. Number 5 is EPA involvement. The US Environmental Protection Agency investigated and confirmed that Volkswagen intentionally cheated the emission tests. So, moving on to number 6, which is the company initial response. At first, Volkswagen said the issue was just a small technical problem, and they only admitted the truth after more pressure. Number 7 is underreporting. Volkswagen also reported fewer affected cars and hid how long the cheating had happened, which damaged their trust even more. Number 8 is CEO's role. The CEO, Martin Winterkorn, was known to be very strict. He denied knowing about the cheating, but his demanding leadership may have pushed employees to meet targets at any cost. Number 9 is executive actions. Many top executives were suspended or removed. Some knew about the defeat devices, while others failed to stop the wrongdoing. Number 10 is corporate culture. Volkswagen had a competitive and closed-off culture. This made employees think they could get away with any unethical actions without consequences.
Good day, I'm Marvesha Munyandi. Now we'll see the question 11. What external or internal forces or both for change do you see described in this case? Would you describe WV's environment as more calm waters or white waters rapids? From the outside, the biggest force was regulatory. The EPA's investigation and subsequent $20 billion in fine were a direct, massive external shock. This was combined with a social force, a global public outcry that shattered their reputation. A third external force was competitive pressure. As the entire auto industry began shifting toward electric and autonomous vehicles, areas where Volkswagen was now distracted and falling behind. However, the internal forces were just as critical. The primary internal force was a toxic cultural problem, performance at any cost, culture set by leadership. This was an internal leadership failure, where the CEO created an atmosphere of fear that motivated employees to cheat to succeed. So, given these intense forces, is Volkswagen's environment calm waters or white water rapids? It is white water rapids. So let me break it down for you. The calm waters metaphor assumes organizations can make a planned change and then enjoy long periods of stability. But Volkswagen's reality is the opposite. The scandal was a sudden, violent rapid, and even as they navigate it, they are immediately thrust into the next set of rapids, technological revolution in the auto industry. This creates a continuous state of unpredictability and turbulence, the very definition of white water rapids environment. Now let's move on to our 12th question. Change needs to happen at Volkswagen. In this chapter, we defined change as any alteration of an organization's people, structure, or technology. Which of these needs changing at Volkswagen's? First and most importantly, Volkswagen must change its people. The root problem was unethical culture. This requires a total cultural transformation. For example, they had to replace the CEO and other leaders. They needed to implement comprehensive ethics training for all employees to redefine what success looks like. And they had to change their incentive structures to reward how goals are achieved, not just that they are achieved. Second, they had to change their structure. The scandal happened because the company's structure was insular, with no effective oversight. The change here involves building in checks and balances. For instance, they needed to create independent compliance committees with real power to audit projects. They also needed to establish safe, anonymous whistleblower channels too, so engineers could have reported the cheating without fear of retaliation. Finally, Volkswagen had to fundamentally change its technology. Their technology was literally designed to deceive. The change here is twofold. First, they had to eliminate the fraudulent defeat device software entirely. But more broadly, they had to pivot their entire technological mission toward genuine innovation. This means stopping the focus on cheating and instead investing heavily to become a leader in truly clean technology, like electric vehicles. This is the only way to rebuild consumer and regulators' trust. In conclusion, changing the people is the highest priority. Why? Because technology can be replaced and structures can be redesigned with a memo. But without ethical people, any new system will fail. The old culture of fear and shortcuts will resurface. Therefore, transforming hearts, minds, and behavior is the hardest but most essential work. Volkswagen must fix its people first. The new structure and technology can only follow from a foundation of integrity.
So the next question is, what organizational development or OD efforts might work at VW? Explain your choice and what challenge managers face in making this change.
So the first one is training and development in ethics. The employees should understand the consequences of violations and legal standards. So, the VW's company needs to implement regular ethics and compliance training for employees at all levels, not only for the management. This ensures everyone fully understands legal requirements and how to identify unethical practice. The training can include case-based learning using real examples from the emission scandal to show how misconduct damages reputation, finance, and public trust. Why this work for VW? Because the scandal happened because the employees either ignore or feel pressure to overlook legal obligation. By increasing awareness and accountability, employees will be less likely to repeat unethical behavior, reducing resistance to honest and transparent change. And the second one is structural redesign. VW's structure was toxic that discouraged open communication and created fear. VW should move away from a highly centralized and hierarchical structure toward a more flexible one, encouraging two-way communication. By establishing cross-functional teams where engineering, compliance, and management can collaborate openly to avoid information being controlled by a few leadership levels. Why this work? Because the emission scandal was partly due to a rigid system where questioning authority was unsafe, and a redesigned structure promotes openness, reduce fear, and support change by removing the barriers that previously protected misconduct. And the third one is cultural change. That's what's happening in VWs right now. Their main problem was toxic culture, describing confident, cutthroat, and insular. This prioritizes winning over ethics, so they need to change this old culture into a new, healthier culture, so they can be a better organizations in the future. The next one is the challenge will managers face. The first one is resistance from long-standing employees. Several of VW's employees that have been working in the company for a long time think that changing will not make any difference in the company because they have to learn and adapt something new, and they have to leave the old system, the old culture that has been in the company for a long time, and they think will just cause any problems to the company instead of fix the company to the right way. And the second one is the lack of trust within the organization. People that related to the company will think that changing means that there was something problem. There was a problem in the company, so they need to change it, and can cause a lack of trust to the company. And the third one is deep roots, culture and habits. The old culture that has been in the company for a long time, it can resist the changing in the company. As like I said in the first point before, the old employees that have been working in the company for a long time will keep the old culture as long as they can, and they will avoid any kind of changing in the company.
Next question is, look at the reasons people resist change. Which do you think are happening at VW? What approach would you recommend for overcoming the resistance to change? Give your rationale for each approach to choose.
The next one is why the reasons people resist to change at VW's company. So the first one is habit. So basically they have done the same thing over and over again at the company for a long time. So it has become a organization habits for them. So changing will make something difficult to reach at the organization because they have their own old system or old culture that has been in company for a long time. So changing can be something too difficult to make at the company. And the second one is concern of a personal interest. It means that the employees, they have their own main important things or main goals, and they will do something that will lead them to their goals. And it's not like every employees have that kind of things, but several of the employees have it, and it can resist the changing in the company, because if they are really comfort with that system, they will protect it.
And for the recommendation, the first one is facilitation and support. So in organization, we can apply counseling, therapy, and new skills training for the employees. So they can, the organization can bring the good habit and the good ethics to the employees, so they can work better and in a good way to run an organization, and they can work much better together rather than they work before, like in the VW case. So giving them facilitation and support can make their behavior much better. The second one is education and communication. Give them a good education on how to behave like good organization, and give them open space to contribute. So VWs must be open to the employees.
Let's begin by addressing question 15. Is an innovative culture always going to be at odds with an ethical culture? Or is it an innovative and ethical culture possible? The nature of these two cultures leads to conflict. An innovative culture pushes for speed, radical risk-taking, and constant challenging of norms. This, as we know, directly clashes with an ethical culture, which requires strict compliance, caution, and integrity. The tension point lies in the pressure for rapid breakthroughs, which often tempts a company to resort to unethical shortcuts. Whether it's compromising on safety checks or misrepresenting data, sacrificing integrity for speed is the core manager failure we need to address. Therefore, the resolution is responsible innovation. Managers must stop viewing ethics as a checkpoint at the end and instead integrate compliance into the earliest design stages. The commitment must be to responsible risk-taking, encourage experimentation with product ideas, but never compromise on integrity. Now let's take a look at case application 2, Under Armour the next big thing, to see how this challenge plays out in the real world. These are the key summary for case application 2. 1. Foundational innovation. Under Armour was founded by Kevin Plank on the single disruptive innovation of a superior sweat-wicking compression t-shirt. This product success immediately defined their mission. Captured by point 2, brand identity. The company's core philosophy and brand promise is protecting our house through innovation. This aggressive, innovation-led stance led to substantial success. As evidenced by point 3, market growth. Under Armour successfully grew from a small startup to a multi-billion-dollar corporation primarily through product differentiation. Their ambition didn't stop at fabric. They rapidly entered new sectors, leading to point 4, technological expansion. Innovation now includes high-tech connected products such as smart running shoes and digital fitness platforms. Moving beyond pure apparel, this expansion was only possible because of their internal culture. Driven by point 5, design philosophy. The motto at the design studio, there's not a product we can't build, fosters a culture that refuses to accept technological limitations. This phenomenal speed, however, hit a critical structural weakness, causing their biggest failure. Point 6. Operational failures. The company suffered severe financial consequences due to operational challenges, specifically a failed ERP, enterprise resource planning, system implementation. This catastrophic breakdown forced an immediate change in focus, leading to point 7, restructuring following the setback. CEO Kevin Plan led a major restructuring, including layoffs, to re-establish a stable operational base. The reason this recovery is non-negotiable is simple market reality. Point 8. Competitive advantage. Under Armour views continuous innovation as necessary to compete effectively against industry giants like Nike and Adidas. Point 9. Future focus. The challenge is to expand the business beyond what it is known for, requiring the integration of technology into all future products. Ultimately, the entire case reinforced the core managerial lesson for all leaders today, which is point 10. Management lesson. An aggressive innovation culture must be balanced with and supported by strong, competent, and ethical operational management and planning.
So now I would like to talk about case 2. It's about Under Armour's. It hits on some market concept. First is about identifying a market need and then grow company through smart marketing and the challenges of staying on top of the market. And now question 5/16, which is what do you think of Under Armour's approach to innovation, and would you expect to see this type of innovation in an athlete wear company? Explain. Under Armour's approach to innovation is aggressive but with ambitious. It's not just making a better shirt, but it's also creating the next big thing that could change the company future. And here are some aspects from Under Armour's approach point. First is innovation mindset. The goal of Under Armour is always wanted to make athletes better and not just only fashion and aesthetic, and also solving athletes' problem. For example, in my slide is heavy, sweet soak, and cotton shirts. Next, Under Armour have their clear goals which they aim at solving a specific problem to enhance better performance in product and outcomes. The article also mentioned about make all athletes better, so each of them have their clear goals. Lastly, Under Armour be adept in observing market demands. We can say that Under Armour is a technology and data industry, so they're actually more focused on materials. For example, Under Armour is creating products such as shoes that provide better energy return and clothes that dry faster. This kind of technology can help to stimulate athletes' purchasing desire. Not only athletes but also for consumers to purchase their exercise use. Next, let's move on to question 5/17. What do you think of Under Armour's culture might be like in regards to innovation? So for my answer is yes. I think that Under Armour has built a culture that are intense and secretive. And based on textbook page 171 and 172, they are strongly emphasize some key points, so let's move on to the cultures that align with innovation. Firstly, Under Armour focus on end rather than means. The article mentioned about we have not yet built our defining product, so I think it would be a powerful reminder of the goal to never be satisfied and focus on the next big thing. And next, Under Armour uses an open system focus. They are targeting different markets, for example, mass markets and women consumers. These markets are not just few people, but other brands may have not noticed. And other, they are looking for technology from other fields. There's not a product we can't build.
From this sentence, we can know that they are very confident in innovation. Next, Under Armour tolerates risk. The article provides clear proof that Under Armour invests heavily in risky projects. It mentioned their secret lab is developing things like shirts that can monitor an athlete's heart rate. From this, I think that they are willing to accept the high probability of failure and be responsible for financial and strategy risks.
Next, I will present question 18 and question 19. First, question 18. How might the design thinking help Under Armour to improve its innovation efforts? So first of all, the design thinking help Under Armour to identify athletes' unmet needs. So Under Armour can use empathy interviews, observations and prototypes to uncover the real performance problems of these athletes, especially for the underrepresented group like the female athletes. Next, the design thinking also help Under Armour to increase its innovation relevance. So Under Armour can test assumption early by using user feedback and prototypes to ensure the new technologies reflect with what the athletes actually need. And the last one, the design thinking also help Under Armour to promote fast experimentation. So this can be done by Under Armour shifting from low costly development to quick low risk prototypes that accelerate learning. Next, question 19. For this question, the interpretation of the philosophy, we have not yet built our best defining product. What does it say about the innovation? So this statement reflects a future-oriented, never satisfied, and innovation-driven mindset. It reflects that Under Armour views innovation as an ongoing journey, not something that is ever complete. No matter how successful the company becomes, it still believes that the best product is ahead, and the employees must constantly challenge assumptions, avoid complacency, and push boundaries. Next, the lesson managers can learn from the innovation approach by Under Armour. So the first one, solve real user problem. So the founding concept of Under Armour came from the Planck's personal experience. So managers should stay close to users and build the product around genuine needs. The second one, maintain a never satisfied culture. A motto like our defining product hasn't been built yet keeps the innovation alive and helps to prevent the complacency that often kills innovation. And the third one, encourage continuous experimentation. High-tech labs, prototypes, and rapid testing keeps the innovation alive. So managers should empower teams to test ideas quickly and safely.